What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I would like to talk about Julio Jones. But if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content or NFL content. If you'd like to follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram, you can follow me at Jew Talk Sports. If you like to donate to my channel, you can donate to my Cash App, which is the $ Jew Talk Sports. And if you'd like to be a part of my Jew Talk Sports membership, you can hit that join tab here on the channel as well. But with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So as I mentioned in today's video, I do want to talk about wide receiver Julio Jones. And Julio Jones recently exposed the Atlanta Falcons front office in his podcast that he's recently started. The Legacies podcast has been started by Roddy White, Julio Jones, and Harry Douglas, our former Falcons wide receivers. And I definitely would recommend going and listening to the first two episodes that they've dropped. But in the second episode, Julio Jones talked about his departure from Atlanta, him being traded to the Tennessee Titans. And he basically stated that he was kind of blindsided by the trade. He talked about he wanted to meet with Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and have a conversation. And he basically stated that that conversation never happened as far as before he was traded to the Tennessee Titans. And it feels like there's a rift now between Julio Jones and the Atlanta Falcons organization. And I really feel like there's a problem with our Atlanta Falcons front office. Arthur Blank, I have said numerous times that I do believe that Arthur Blank is one of the best owners in the NFL. But in this instance, I do believe that Arthur Blank was wrong in this situation with him and Julio Jones. Being that Arthur Blank is one of those guys that seems like he speaks to his players on a regular basis. And I really feel like prior to Julio Jones being traded, he should have reached out to Julio Jones, meaning Arthur Blank, and had a simple conversation. I really feel like the biggest issue with this Julio Jones situation is he felt disrespected by the organization and disrespected by Arthur Blank. He talked about when Dan Quinn was let go as our head coach and when TD Thomas Dimitroff was let go as the GM. Basically, when Arthur Smith came in as the new hired head coach and Terry Fontenot came in, Arthur Blank basically stated that the new head coach, meaning Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, would have the final say on what players came and went as far as once they were hired as the new head coach and GM. And that rubbed Julio Jones the wrong way because Julio Jones talked about him playing through a lot of injuries for our Atlanta Falcons. He talked about him having a toe injury the season that we went to the Super Bowl, and it could have ended his season. They wanted him to have surgery on his foot because he had a significant injury, and he decided to play through that injury because the Falcons made that run to the Super Bowl and he played at a really high level, and he sacrificed for his brothers. He sacrificed for the team. He also talked about him struggling with the hamstring injury and that he played through the injury for the organization and things of that nature as well. And he talked about all of the many different things, the blood, sweat, and tears that he poured in for the 10 seasons that he was with our Atlanta Falcons. And he really felt disrespected by Arthur Blank because no conversation was ever had about him possibly being on the trading block. And I really feel like in this situation, everything could have been avoided by a simple conversation. And the reason I really feel like Arthur Blank was in the wrong in this situation is because we heard him say numerous times that, you know, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, and those guys were going to be Falcons for life. And he talked about wanting those guys to finish their career in Atlanta. And then he flipped the script on those guys for whatever reason. And I really feel like in this situation, I had no problem with Arthur Blank, you know, moving on from Matt Ryan, moving on from Julio Jones. I just don't like the way that the Falcons organization has kind of pushed their legends out the back door. They did Roddy White similar to this same situation when Kyle Shanahan came in 2015. Him and Roddy White bumped heads. And then right after that, the next following season, Roddy White was gone from the team. And there was really no a conversation for him as well, as far as him being let go. He stated that he was just contacted by Rich McKay, stating that the team was moving in another direction. So I really feel like in this Julio Jones situation, even in that Matt Ryan situation, I'm seeing a common theme with our owner and with the front office, is that they're too afraid to have the tough conversations with these players. And I really feel like it goes back to what I said. Arthur Blank, kind of put his foot in his mouth when he said that Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and those guys were going to be Falcons for life. And then, when the new head coach and GM came in and the injuries started to pile up on Julio Jones and things of that nature, I really feel like all it had to be was a simple conversation with Arthur Blank basically stating, we're moving on, and this is the reason that we're moving on. And Julio Jones basically stated that if they would have sat down and had that simple conversation, Julio Jones basically stated that there wouldn't be this rift, between him and the Falcons and things of that nature. And now I don't know if this type of rift can be repaired, because Julio Jones has taken it personally. He talked about, at first they told him that it was business when he was let go, but now he's been rubbed the wrong way. He's taken it personally, and I don't blame him for taking this personally. As a person, that loves the game of football, and a fan of the Atlanta Falcons, I seen the blood, sweat, and tears that Julio Jones, Roddy White, Matt Ryan, and those great players put out there on the field. Them going out there less than 100% a lot of the time, sometimes injured, where they knew they shouldn't have been out there on the field, but they went and laid it on the line for the owner. They went and laid it on the line for the shield and laid it on the line for the logo. I definitely feel like those players should have been treated a little bit better. And they definitely, in Julio Jones' case, he is the best wide receiver in Atlanta Falcons history, and arguably one of the best players in Atlanta Falcons history. So I definitely feel like this situation should have ended better. I definitely feel like they should have sat down and had a one-on-one conversation with him, and Arthur Blank told him the reasons of why they wanted to move forward. If that was without him being on the team and then wanting to go younger, or whatever the case may be, they should have sat down and had that decent conversation with him, man to man, because at the end of the day, everybody deserves to be respected. And I really feel like at this point, Julio Jones took it personally. He's holding a grudge at this point, and he felt disrespected by the organization. So with that being said, you guys give me your thoughts on Julio Jones and his comments about our Atlanta Falcons. But I definitely am on Julio Jones' side when it comes to this situation. I really feel like it wasn't handled in the right way. And like I mentioned, the Falcons have had numerous players throughout the organization's history where things were not handled the right way when it comes to these players, especially these players that are your best players, the players that are, have their jerseys hanging up in the rafters, these guys that are in the Ring of Honor, guys not being treated the right way, whether it's when they left the team or whether when they were on the team. So with that being said, I have a lot more coming for you guys. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed, peace.